So this today's discussion about StackDemo contains new stuff, okay, and in two large portions. So I will separate it into separate videos because they are unrelated pieces. First, let's clone it, and if you cloned this before, fine. Just open this from hard drive and reload it. So I will close this project. It is multiplication trainer. And I will open StackDemo. By default, it will open in main, so it will be checkout main. But you see, it is cannot do that for me because I edited this in class, so I would need to roll out. Okay, so if you try to check out another branch, but it says blah blah cannot do this. If you don't want to keep your code, you probably play it with it. You just roll out. Another option is to commit it to another branch or the same branch, and after this you can switch. Okay. And so I'm switching this to main branch. And again, in your case, you need to click Update Project. And after update, if you see in the main branch like blue arrow down, it means it's not fresh. You need to update main branch. You go there and run update. In my case, it says everything is fresh because I did it already. Okay. In your case, you will see additional things after running update. One thing that you will see in addition, it is session config. It is the same what I already explained. I copy-pasted it into this project. And this is not essential part of the theory since I already explained this. But I need to explain something which is not even related to session, which is essential to web technologies. Let me emphasize the part that I want to explain right now. Previously, a form submitted data with, in all our example, forms submitted data with method get. And method get is default. So if you don't write a method post, it will send it by method get. Okay. This is show a difference from any other example so far. Okay. It is submitting data with post. Additional difference from any other example so far, go to controller. First method of the controller, this one, is just displaying current state of the stack. You see, it is not updating it. It says, get stack data from the session. Get stack data from the session. Is trying to find it in the session. If it is null, it creates a new stack, adds to the session, and returns it. If it is not null, it is just printing it's found, and it is returning it. All right. So this method is not updating stack. So it's not saving any data. It is just showing current data, okay? First one. And this method is accessed by get method, default one. When we type address slash or stack, we will see what is returned by this. This is not mapped, so it's not, and it's also private. So it is used for internal use, they get stack data, okay? So what is this one? Process. It is accessed by, it is not accessed by, it is activated when server receives post request. So you see post mapping. And it is where the form is sending data to slash process. and it is sending with post request. This is why it is matching. Right? Post mapping, it is specifically for post requests. A get mapping specifically for get requests. And this form is sending data for using post to address process. Okay? So a method of a controller receives this data to do and what is pushed, if it is pushed. By default, if pushed is nothing, because it could be also pop. At this address. Okay. And what does it do? It tries to get stack data. Then I see if to do is push. If to do is push. If push it is empty, just don't do anything. But if it's not empty, add it to the stack. So this is processing data, right? Process is processing data, adding to the stack. Next, if equal to pop, if stack is empty, nothing to pop, so don't do pop, right? So this method is, I call it only when it's not empty, right? Not empty. So this is what is popped, and what happens? I'm not showing template. I'm sending redirection address to the browser. So it is for pop. And for push, it will use this one. Okay. A redirection address to the stack, and it will also do by default. Not just push, but also when the stack is empty. When stack is empty. Okay. So, bottom line, a method process input after receiving data is not showing template to the browser. Instead of sending HTML to the browser, it sends new request to the browser, a new address to the browser. So browser will send new request. So instead of sending HTML, it is sending a redirect instruction. So this is a huge difference from any other example so far, right? So after receiving the data, instead of showing something inside of the template, it is sending redirect to another method that is showing content. It doesn't show it here. All right? Why? It appears like, whoa, it's extra complexity, right? But there is a reason for it. So let's learn why it is doing it. Because it is a simple example that I use technology or trick, or say design pattern, right? I use it all over internet. It's not Java specific. So what is the pattern? After receiving data and processing it, instead of showing template, I'm sending a redirection instruction to the browser to send another request for the page to show. So after sending data, after processing the data, instead of showing template, I am sending instruction to the browser, retrieve page from another address. Okay? And this approach is called post, redirect, get. Browser posted data here. So it is received by post. And this method sent a redirection to new address. And browser sent get request here to receive HTML. Right? So this is why it's called post, redirect, get. And again, data is posted to this address. This method, instead of sending HTML, send redirection after data is processed to the browser. And browser sends new request to using get. So post, redirect, get. Get request to the server to see the page. Great. So why do we need it? Okay. So let's learn what happens if we don't do it. Okay. So it is easier to explain by seeing what happens when we don't do it. So for this purpose, I created branch code using only get method. All right, so let's open that and see. Check out. By the way, this branch is defective, and this is on purpose, right? To show what happens if we don't do post redirect get. All right. But first, let's learn what it is doing. So what happens? I have a method that's mapped to slash, and this is just default page. What does it do? Get stack data and get items and show. This is default stack content, 3 items. It will be shown to the user. For new session, fine. After this, this stack HTML will send data using get method, the same data, but using get method. My controller will receive the data at process address, but using get mapping, because it was sent by get method, so it has to be received by get mapping. Otherwise, server will say, no mapping available, something like that. It will be error message. Okay? So data is received here. Code is the same, but except in the end, I'm showing template, stack template. So instead of redirection, I'm adding the data to the model so I can show content of the stack inside of the template. So I copy-pasted this piece from index, right? Not index, but display stack. So what is the difference? First, it is receiving data by get, and instead of redirection, it is showing the page. Is this clear? Difference is clear, right? Now let's see how, hopefully it's clear difference. But let's see what happens. Okay, what happens? So let's run it. It is starting. Next, I go to localhost 8080. So far, so good, right? Going to default address, I got index. No problem. Next, let's put some data, push, and now we see the difference, right? We do see content, what was sent. Not necessarily bad thing, but it's different. Right? We see content, and instead of redirecting to the stack address, we stay with the same address, right? Process it is receiver address. And data that was received, push it A to do push, correct? This was sent, and it pushed it, no problem. All right, let's do B, push to do push B, no issue, right? Now, let's do pop, process, push it to do pop, pop it, pop, pop, no big deal. Now, when issue starts, okay, let's put C and push. Yeah, of course, it works because it could push B correctly, so now it could push C, right? And now let's do something that users do often. Click refresh button. Okay? Click refresh. Refresh, 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 refresh. Okay. Obviously, it is unintended behavior, right? Next. Let's do pop. Okay. And click refresh button. Refresh, 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 refresh is gone. Okay. Obviously, this is not intended behavior, right? It's an issue. It's an issue. So why do we see this issue? So let's learn why it happens first. And second, how we could resolve it. First, why it happens. When we click refresh, logically browser gets information. I need to get the page again, right? What it means. And how browser got the page? Browser got the page when it sends a request to address process that contained to-do pop. This is why it's keep popping, because browser sends request to process to-do pop. Okay? And this is very logical from the browser point of view, because this page was received by the browser when browser sent request with the address process and to-do pop. This is why it keeps popping data. Okay. When we click push and start refreshing, it has the same issue. Browser repeats the step used to retrieve the page. And the page was retrieved by sending request to process, push it, item 1, to do push, right? So browser sends request that contain data, push it item 1 and to do push. And it is repeating the last request to get the last page again, right? This is why on every refresh, browser repeats last step, and we get the list. Okay. So what is the issue? Browser assumes that repeating this request will not have a side effect, right? Which is okay. This is default behavior of GET. But if repeating the last request is maybe dangerous on the server side, like it is altering data, like we have here, we should not use GET. So the key point, right? If resending data may potentially cause issue, right? Like duplication or repeating of deletion or whatever. If resending data may cause issue on the server side, we should not use GET. So this is key point, right? Because this is what happens in GET. So what happens when we use just post without redirection? So another alternative is to use post without redirection. So hopefully I convinced you that when resending data may potentially cause issue, we should not use GET because it is just doing something on its own, right? Kind of thing. All right. Next, let's learn what happened if we use post. So I'm stopping this browser, stopping this piece, and now I'm switching to branch using post but without redirect, no redirect. Check out. This is using post, no redirection. So what is the difference? In my stack HTML, I'm using method post. All right. And in stack controller, I changed this to post because it is sent with post. It should be received on the server side, like as a post. Okay. Map it as a post. And in the end, I'm still adding data to the model and showing stack. So the only difference, I'm sending with post and receiving as post. Okay, small change. So let's see what happens. Run. And start it. Going to localhost state, since program initialized this from scratch, so we got stack, right? 1, 2, 3. Next, let's add some value like A and push it. It does show address process because it didn't redirect, so it is last address used by the browser. It sent data to process, it shows. It doesn't show a data in the address line, but it was definitely sent, because otherwise how would it receive it, right? If we send like B, push, doesn't show here, but it was received. So what did we learn about differences between post and get so far? Data is not shown on the address line, but it was sent. Right? It was not sent through address line, it was sent through body of the request. Through body of the request, so it's hidden inside of the request body. So how can we use this feature? Please notice that in previous case, data is shown here. It's not necessarily a good idea. For example, if we want to send password or some other information that you don't want to show other people in the same room. If we send password with GET request, you type it in the form ... but in the address line, it will go in plain text, which is not intended, obviously, right? Because ... in a form of password is designed to hide it from people in the same room, right? But it will show this in the address line plain text after that if we use GET request. So for sending private information, we better use post, because post will hide it from the people in the same room. But post is not hiding this from other computers on the internet. It still goes plain text. So in order to send private information like passwords, credit card, no, whatever, we should use HTTP and post method. HTTPS protocol, secure connection, encrypted connection, and post method. This way, post will hide information from people in the same room, and HTTPS, encrypted connection, will hide encrypted for going through internet, so it will not go plain text. Because post alone will send information plain text. Is this clear? Okay. Although post is hiding, it is not hiding from internet and mean computers on the internet, right? Running some hacking software, stealing data. All right? So this is about post. Additional information about post. In the GET, you saw that data is kind of sent through address line, correct? And address line has limits. It means large data cannot be sent this way. I don't remember limit, but there are limits. Since posted data is sent through body of the request, potentially it can send larger data. So another application for post, besides hiding from people in the same room, it is also sending larger data, because it is in the body of the request and it's not limited by limits of addresses. Okay. Second, but it's not important in this example, right, so far. So let's see what is difference right now. So what was last one? I don't remember. I push it, right? So let's try to reload. So logically, browser, it has the same issue, because in order to get this page, browser sends data to address process. We don't see it in the address line, but data was sent. So browser knows about it. Right? So reload. This is what happens. You probably saw it before. And this happens when we submitted data with post. Browser knows, by default, post is used for submitting data when potentially could be issued on the server side when it is resubmitted. Okay. So this is what the browser will do if page was retrieved when we send some data. So what can we learn from it? First, don't use post if there is no side effect on the server side and for no good reason. So don't use post for no good reason because user should not be annoyed by dialog which is safe, right? In some cases it is safe. It is not safe only in specific cases that we already discussed. So don't use post just because it is post, right? Okay? It should be reason. Because otherwise, users will be annoyed with dialogues that's probably okay, right? In this case, it's not okay, because if I click continue, it will resubmit the data, and I will get duplication, B, you see? So it's not really solving issue, but it gives warning to the user. So if I click cancel, obviously, but it's not refreshing page, right? It's just don't send request at all. What happens in POP? The same issue. Do you want to resubmit? Yeah, okay, if I resubmit, it's repeating POP, okay? And the same, resubmitting POP. So it is not really solved issue, but it is solved partially. At least user knows that maybe something good, bad it will happen if I click, if I click continue, right? And if user is doing shopping and resubmits mail order, whatever, maybe user will think twice before clicking continue. Right? For this reason, it is better than get. Questions? Okay. Next. Is this clear that post, when we send data, we submit, right? And when repeating this step may cause side effects that we don't want, we need to use post. At least browser will have to show warning to user. And if user says, okay, this, you did something bad and it's your problem, right? At least we warned you. Next. How post redirect get works? Let's switch branch to main. Check out. So repeating the steps, what happens? We submit data with post, it is the same. We receive data here with post. Next, we process the data here, we update stack here. We process data here. And instead of showing, we send browser new address. That tells browser, send new request to this address. And browser sends new get request to this address, and since this method is not changing stack, it is just showing what is there. So what happens when user click reload? Browser remembers what it did last, right? To get the page. Send get request to this address to get stack picture. So it's totally safe to repeat, right? Because this was received, right? This was received, redirection was received to this address, and browser sends new request to this address. So in order to receive this page, browser resubmit request, right? And get the page. Can it contain data? Yes. And indeed it does contain data here. But this data is just displayed, it's not stored, or use it to show on the page. So it doesn't have any side effect. It's okay to have data sent in GET request as long as it's not having side effects. Okay? So let's see how it behaves. Stop, run. Start it. Going to localhost 8080. It starts as usual. Next, let's put A, push. And you see, it redirected to stack. And when browser receives redirection, it sends new request. Please show me stack, right? No update. Because method display stack does not change stack. When we reload it, it will send new request, right? To address stack, and it will show content of the stack. It's not changing stack content, displaying content. So totally safe, nothing happens. Because browser is repeating last step. Okay? And last step was show me the page after redirection. So redirection, post-redirect get contains two steps, right? So after receiving data with post, updating, processing it, it sends redirection to the browser, and browser sends new request. So browser repeats last step, new request inside of redirection to see the page. So the data is not duplicated. But it may contain data. For example, pop, pop, pop. You see, redirection contains data. So request contains data. So when I show redirection, send redirection from pop, I redirect not to just stack. I redirect to stack, pop it, and what is pop it. Right? So this request does contain data now. So what is popped by default is empty, but now it's not empty. And what is not empty is shown here. Why do I do it? The reason is that when I process it update, item 3 is already removed from the stack. So I cannot show this in stack content because it's not there. Correct? So somehow I need to go around the fact that it's not here, but I need to show. Just because I want to go around the fact that it's not here, what I need to show, I need to pass it again somehow. And I pass it as a request parameter. Okay. So it is received as request parameter, which is, by the way, data inside of request. Right? Request parameter is data inside of request. Here it is. Receive it here and shown. Just because it's a get, it will not give you warning when you reload, and nothing happens because this method is not updating stack. Whatever is received is just shown here. It's not updating stack. To make it clear that is not what is necessary, what is popped, I'm just using trick. I can type, instead of item 3 at the top, I can type whatever. Literally, right? Whatever I want. And I press, and whatever shows here. So it's just a trick. It's not necessary what is popped. I redirect it to address that contains data, popped whatever. Right? So it doesn't have to be the value that is popped. It is whatever I put there will be displayed in this place. Okay? And browser does not give me warning because this data is resubmitted using get method, right? This is the reason. Questions? So this is post redirect get. This idea is not specific to Java at all. It is all around internet. And we do send data using GET requests, but we send it only when it doesn't cause undesirable side effect on the server side. Typically, it is query parameters. For example, do some search with, for example, some engine, search engine. You will see that what you type it in the search will be in the address line. So browser send it using get method. So it is used literally for retrieving data or retrieving and inserting this into page, but not updating it. Maybe some updating, but not updating that cause undesirable side effect. Right? So post is for 3 scenarios. First, to hide data in the address line from the address line, from people in the same room, so people in the same room don't see it. Second, we can send larger data using post because it's not in the address. It can inside of requests potentially it can be bigger. Third, post. We use post when we want to warn users that resubmission potentially can cause issue if with reload pattern. But post redirect get it's somewhat better because user can click reload and it's fine. It's no issue happens and no warning happens. But post redirect get is not perfect. And when it fails, when does it fail? It does fail to some degree if server is slow or network connection is slow. Because it contains 2 steps. It needs to finish both steps before a user hits reload button. Right? So what happens if browser did not receive redirection before user hit reload button? A last step for the browser was to send post request. So it will send that post request. It will try to send that post request, and it will realize that, no, it will not even try. It will see last step is post, right? And it will pop up dialog. Remember, resubmission data may cause issue, right? Do you want to submit it or not? So post redirect get is not, it is better than just post. But on slow network, on slow server, it behaves like post. Right? Because this time, user may hit reload button before browser receives redirection address. And in this case, browser will see, OK, last step was post, but sending data with post may potentially show issues, get issues. So it will pop up dialog. Do you really want to resubmit data because blah, 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 right? You saw this dialog. So what did we learn? Post is good. Post redirect is better. Sometimes it fails, but no, it's not worse than post. Even when it fails, it behaves like as post. Questions? No? So this was essential information, and it is not Java specific, it is web specific.